as we see, IIC has this mandate to provoke the millennials, the young minds to think, have critical thinking, think beyond, out of box for innovations, skill improvement and development. So in this digital age, what we see that it has created a space for everyone. Empowerment from below, empowerment from top, in terms of social, economic, political also. And when it comes to businesses, what we see that, we have already seen that without having cars, companies are running Uber kind of things. Without having content, we have social media. Without having hotels, we have so many startups running. So definitely it's a very interesting. On the other hand, the pandemic has also created a lot of serious challenges for us. So we are pleased to have Mr. Vikas Singh with us, and we'll have a very interesting session. Look forward to it. Thank you for sparing time, and over to you, Ria.
Thank you so much, sir, for your motivational remarks. We are pleased to welcome our guest of honor for the day, Mr. Vikas Kumar Singh. His talks will be followed by question and answers. You all are allowed to write your queries in the chat box also. Mr. Vikas Kumar Singh is a reputed public policy expert with varied experience in economic policy making, deregulation of industrial laws and manufacturing. He has started his career with the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, where he worked across sectors for 10 years. He has also worked with the commercial sectors of Danish Embassy and global corporations like Carlsberg and Lenovo as the head of government affairs for India and South Asia. Currently, Mr. Vikas Kumar Singh is the Vice President and National Head of Corporate Affairs at Oyo Hotels and Homes. In all these positions, he has been instrumental in helping companies with regulatory compliances, business promotion, risk analysis, and sustainable initiatives. He has been on multiple committees of ministry and industrial associations. Mr. Vikas Kumar Singh is a physics graduate from Delhi University and has a law degree from Campus Law Center, Delhi University. He also has an MBA in International Business from Delhi School of Economics and a postgraduate diploma from Cyber Laws from Nalsar, Hyderabad. Now, I would like to invite our honorable guest to enlighten us with his words. So, please.
No, thank you very much, Ria, for your most kind. So, without any further ado, we can straight away go ahead with a little bit of a theoretical aspect of it, and then probably we can jump into the which, in my opinion, is something that I would differ as much as possible. So, I mean, basically, just coming back to some very basic, theoretical knowledge. It's important to have a very strong theoretical aspect also as to why we are doing this discussion. How is this discussion going to be helpful in whatever career paths that the students who will be passing out from the institute in couple of, in probably in a year or two. I mean, where does it this discussion help them, create a perspective and how it does that? So, I mean, core of today's discussion, obviously, for the business students or even other students who are joining in today, is obviously on business modeling. Now, I went through multiple, definitions, multiple research papers on business modeling, but when I really wanted to simplify the whole complexity behind a business, and business modeling can be very, very complex also, and it can be simplified also, depending on how we are going to look at it, or what is the kind of business that we are really dealing with, and a lot of other factors. But in a nutshell, what we got, what I really captured was that business modeling is all about how an organization creates, delivers, and captures value. Now, this value word is very, very important to understand. So value can be, economic value, it could be profits, it could be community related things that you are doing. what Dr. Ajitabh just mentioned about technology coming into picture. So if you look at companies like Ola and Uber, or to well, essentially what it is also doing is that while it is creating economic value for its own company, it is also helping many, small disaggregated drivers who didn't know how to really go about doing their business. And all that has been aggregated by use of technology. So net, what Ola or Uber is also doing is, apart from helping people who actually use their services, they're also become a big source of employment for a lot of youth, a lot of disaggregated drivers, as I told. It is also helping, the overall automobile industry as such, by creating value over there. So value can be, it can be looked at into different forms. But when we talk about business modeling, I mean, this is what I felt was a very, very relevant discussion. And obviously, it all, then boils down to context. And that context can be economic, it can be social, it can be cultural, or any other context. Business cannot, operate in situ. Apologies for a bit of disturbance. Actually, my home is right in the pathway of the Republic Day parade, this thing that is going on. But that's okay, we'll manage with that. So, I mean, as I was saying, that business cannot be looked at today as in a silo kind of a perspective. It has to take care of multiple other factors which are going on around in the economy, in the country, as far as government or policy making is concerned. All those things have to be taken care of. And more and more companies are now realizing that only focusing on economic value creation is not any longer the right approach to conducting business. So business has to now be conscious of various social aspects. You can't do things which may hurt the sentiments of the society at large. You have to keep in mind the cultural aspects. Other contexts, when I say, you could think of environment as a context, sustainability as a context. So all these factors are now also getting more and more relevant as far as business modeling is concerned. So you cannot simply have a business model which talks about, product, which talks about promotion, which talks about profits. No, now there are multiple other factors which you have to keep in. And if you are not cognizant of those particular factors, you may have a very fair chance that the business will not be successful after a couple of years. I mean, you may have to really change ways or even shut down shops. So again, I mean, that was as far as the context was concerned. The third aspect which comes out from business modeling is that while a lot of contexts have to be taken care of, but it is essentially the core strategy for doing business. And when you talk about strategy, as I would like to reiterate once again, that any strategy now cannot be looked at in isolation. It has to really factor in many more external factors into business modeling. And that's where probably roles like corporate affairs, roles like public policy, roles like PR or communication have become very, very important, because ultimately what you say, what you do, how you carry yourself essentially makes or breaks the image of a company. And obviously, let's say, for example, all these tech-based companies, I mean, since we are talking on, started off with that discussion, we can continue on that. So all these tech-based companies, I mean, whether they're hotel aggregators or homestay aggregators like Airbnb, Oyo, or even trip advisors like Make My Trip or Ease My Trip. I mean, a large clientele of these of people who are using the services of or using technology for these services are the young people, millennials who are there. So the entire imagery, entire your advertisements, how you what you talk about the company, how you project your core values or the core strategy, all that has to factor in the relevant client base that you are really trying to target at. So you can't, you can't expect Make My Trip or Ease My Trip to be talking about something that would be, music to somebody who's, let's say, 60 plus kind of a gentleman for whom the priorities of travel or booking a ticket are very, very different than somebody who's, let's say, in his mid 20s or early 30s. I mean, for them, the whole approach of travel, tourism, going out, it's a very, very different kind of an approach. And so all those factors have to be kept into account. Last bit, which I find very, very interesting as far as business modeling is concerned, is that it includes customers, it includes value proposition, it includes an operating model and a revenue model. But naturally, I mean, essentially, you're doing getting into business for creating certain value proposition for the stakeholders, or for the investors, or public at large, for the country's economy also, for that matter. So all those have to be taken care of. Now, coming to next slide, which is basically, I mean, then it becomes important for us to understand what is corporate affairs. So many a times, I mean, people who are not into this area till quite a few years, till very recently, public policy was not really looked at as a very strategic function. You know, I mean, typically when you talk about any corporate, it is always the marketing, finance, HR, legal. They were used to be considered as the pillars of building an organization and taking it forward. But over the years, as Dr. Rajitab mentioned about the dynamism that has come into business models now, role of technology has become a big disruptor now, where business models are have to be constantly upgraded, changed, and adapted to the changing technological scenarios or the requirements. Given that kind of a dynamism in the business environment today, the role of corporate affairs has become very, very important. Now, before we move into corporate affairs, I mean, I would really want to give a simple definition of what is meant by corporate affairs. So basically, I mean, as we, our primary role is to identify and protect organizations from reputational risks. So you cannot allow the image of your organization to be tarnished by things which somebody may be talking about, or by things that somebody may be perceiving on your. I'll come to that, a few examples in a moment. Now, when you break down the role of corporate affairs, basically the role then encompasses community outreach. It includes a little bit of public relations. It includes a little bit of government relations. So essentially, you become the front-ending for the company in all government-related interactions. You are the ones who deal with the bureaucrats or the policymakers or ministers, state governments, people who where you want the company to be represented. It also encompasses trade and industry relations. Now, that's the background where I come in from. I started my career with an organization called FICCI, FICCI, Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which was essentially, was a bridge between its members, which are typically the industry folks, as well as the policymakers, which is the government or the relevant ministries, which is there. So trade and industry relations is also very important. And over here, I mean, you'll be surprised to know that this part becomes very, very important. Whereas, many people would feel that, let's say, I mean, if I were to take an example of the automobile industry, for example, let's say, so, I mean, typically you would feel that, let's say, a Tata Motors or a Suzuki would be really fiercely competing in the market, to gain more and more market share, which is fair enough as far as market share is concerned. But you'll be surprised to know that in the background, all these companies do get together to tackle common issues that are going on around in their environment. So they have organizations called SIAM, which is Society for Indian Automobile Manufacturers, where all these companies, they are members of that organization, and they pick up common issues, which is a pain point to all companies, whether it is to do with high taxes on motor vehicles, or whether the new policy on electric vehicles that is now coming in, or whether the new scrapping policy which the government is trying to bring about, or the issues that the environment folks keep on raising about, pollution and other aspects. So on to tackle with these common issues, I mean, the companies actually get down together and very successfully negotiate a common cause for everybody. So that's where trade and industry relations become very, very important for corporate affairs. Investor relations. I mean, so what happens is that especially for startups, I mean, there are multiple investors into a single company, and each of those investors would have a different, the perspective of why they have invested, where they would want to see the company moving in. So to manage those investor relations also is an important aspect of corporate affairs. So in a nutshell, basically, you can call it that it's all about management of all external relations with stakeholders, and stakeholders then becomes a very, very broad term with multiple facets to it. Corporate affairs on a continuous basis tracks, manages, and influences public policy that can impact organizations. So this, in a nutshell, is what corporate affairs do. So essentially, it is, I mean, if you were to just sum this entire slide up, it is basically managing the external relations for a particular company and bringing in an external perspective. So if you go to the next slide, so basically corporate affairs, what it does, it brings the outsider perspective to corporate strategy development. And that's where now it has become a strategic function also. Companies more and more are dependent on corporate affairs team to really handhold them, let them know as to what's happening outside, or what new thing is going to be coming in, what is going to be the impact of that particular change or new policy or anything else coming in, which can impact the entire business operations or entire business plans that or business models, if I may say so, that the company may have created in the beginning itself. So corporate affairs basically navigates the complex and competing priorities of different stakeholders. So now again, what I meant here is that the government has a different perspective of looking at things. So they have their own, typically a government would want, employment generation to be created, some economic activity to be created within the country. They also would want companies to be conscious of nation building exercises and how, more and more marginalized people or other people can be brought into the mainstream, how we can create some employment for them, how they can generate some money, which will help them in their livelihoods, how we can educate probably, and those kind of things. So government has, one set of, priorities, which can be put into one bracket. Then the second priority is the community side. So you cannot really come up with a great business idea which the community is not really very favorable for. And to a certain extent, you would have seen that how, especially when there were some wrong instances in an Uber or in an Ola, I mean, the community really was up in arms against the company, and the company really had to do a lot of, firefighting exercises to get their whole imagery back and multiple things. And investors, as I told you, different investors have different priorities. So basically, corporate affairs is the function which navigates the whole competing priorities of different investors. Now, coming to some examples, I mean, since I represent the hospitality sector, so you will understand the importance how this role became very, very important. So typically, what happens is that when the COVID pandemic, when it hit us in March 2020, hospitality sector, restaurants, so these were the sectors which were the worst impacted, airlines for that matter, which were the worst impacted. Now, one way, obviously, business was really going down. All the plans that we had for, money flows and everything that we were expecting to be coming into the company, on which a lot of our strategies were dependent, all that went for a six and went haywire. So that's where then corporate affairs actually redefined its, role. So what we did, surprisingly, is that, quite a few of our OYO hotels, we kind of, we started working with a lot of state governments and central government, and we converted many of our hotels into quarantine facilities. So many people who had smaller homes or who were at a risk, and if one person in the family was getting impacted by COVID, and they did not want others to in the family to be impacted, I mean, they were preferring to go into Oyo hotels and spending their 15 days of quarantine over there. We also in turn, I mean, apart from doing just the hospitality part of it, we had then, doctors and healthcare professionals on our call, so that just in case if anybody were to need some extra treatment before they are being shifted to the hospitals, I mean, how that can be taken care of. We, our hotel started providing oxygen cylinders to somebody who needed it very seriously. We then offered our hotels to doctors and healthcare professionals who, typically when they were working for long durations in hospitals, many apartments, many communities, many areas were not taking them back. I mean, everybody had this intense fear that if these doctors or nurses were to come back, they will become super spreaders and all. So we kind of, provided them with stays. Vande Bharat, where the repatriates who were coming back from NRIs or other people who were coming back from different countries, I mean, they had to undergo a compulsory 14-day quarantine, and we kind of offered our hotels. So in net, what happens is that by constantly tracking as to what's happening outside. So we used to track the data, the movement, everything on a daily basis, get into a huddle with our business folks, get in touch with our hotel owners, and used to bring everybody together just to see as to how best we can salvage whatever impact that has happened because of COVID and other things. And then obviously with our own business teams, corporate affairs started working, and we came out with something called sanitized stays. So it was a complete SOP, standard operating procedure, of how a hotel room will be sanitized once a guest has checked out and a new guest comes in. And this SOP was such a hit that it was ultimately adopted as a policy or the standard SOP by the health ministry, and was circulated all across the country. So today, most of the states have adopted our SOP for sanitized stays, and that's how we were able to bring back confidence in the minds of travelers, tourists, and our customers. And so when the lockdown eased and when the cases came down, I mean, we were in a position to really turn around our business very, very rapidly, rather than people waiting all the time, because there was constant communication going on. We were tracking what is happening. We were constantly communicating. Our communications team was also working in tandem with corporate affairs, or what we were doing. Another part of sanitized stays is something called zero-touch operations. So these were something where a person who was getting into a hotel, I mean, they didn't even have to sign a register. You could actually do your check-in, your payment, your everything. You could do it right on your mobile phone, so that there was no fear absolutely in the minds of customers and all those things. So those are the kind of roles that corporate affairs plays, and that's how we could create a completely new business model, which was actually catering to the COVID situation. The last one, which I would really want to talk about, is that now suddenly, what has happened is that post-COVID, more and more people now, they don't want to go and check in into a big hotel. So a complete new product category has been developed, where we are, as corporate affairs team, my team, we are working very closely with many state governments in promoting homestays or stays in those states. We have done something in Kevadia. We've done as a new product category has now come out, and which has created a new kind of a business for all of us. So that is what I mean. I just wanted to give this perspective of what business modeling is all about, how it has become a very, very dynamic process. And because of the dynamism that has come into business modeling now for technology, for rapidly changing external environment, situations, business priorities, suddenly become that perspective is now helping companies. That's all that I wanted to touch upon from a little bit of a theoretical perspective. So just, reiterating as to, I did talk about what I feel is business modeling. I slightly explained to you the role of corporate affairs. What does this particular role do? And also, took you through a couple of simple examples of what this role of corporate affairs has to play in today's business modeling environment. So that's all from my side. Now I would hand it back to you. Anybody questions, I'm more than happy. We have around 25 odd minutes, so we can have a good, healthy discussions over there.
Thank you so much, sir, for your informative words. Like, it was very informative. The floor is now open for question and answers. You are all requested to bring your queries on board.
So, thank you, sir. My question is straight to you that, we talk about corporate communication, public relation, and, there is a need to have synergy between business model to have a better business model canvas. There has to be have some synergy between communicators, relation managers, and so on and so forth. So what is your take on this?
No, you're absolutely correct. I mean, all these roles have a very, very well-defined charter in an organization. So the role of corporate communication is predominantly to handle the media side of it, the advertisement side of it, marketing as we talk about. But what needs to be the message? A lot depends on what is the back end information that a team like corporate affairs brings to the discussions within the company. So typically, let's say one thing which we have changed in last one and a half years was that at some point of time, whenever we were discussing with external stakeholders, one thing that we were constantly, kind of bringing back was that, aggregators like an OYO or a Make My Trip or an Airbnb are into a very, very budget category segment. So anybody who wants to take a premium experience, so that probably is not the business model for us. Whereas the fact of the matter was absolutely contrary to that. So while OYO has, many smaller hotels as business partners, we also have some very, very good premium properties, which are 3-star, 4-star, 5-star properties. And it is not just over here. While India is just one part of it, we have some fantastic properties in Europe, in US, where we are very, very popular over there. So that messaging had to, so that was the input or the outsider perspective, as I told. We brought it back to our communications team. So after getting that feedback, all our communication, all our media insertions, everything was very, very conscious to talk about how we have a complete portfolio of products to offer to any perspective at various price points that we are looking at. So while, so the input, if I may purely put it into a physics terminology, so the input actually came in from the corporate affairs by, the interactions that we had with the government, or by the interactions that we had at industry associations, or with, public at large. So that was the input that corporate affairs brought in. And then the media and communication team actually translated that input into a viable output so that this course can be corrected. So everybody had a role over there, but all of us actually, we worked in tandem for the final outcome to come in. So now, if you follow us on Twitter or any of the social media, you'll be seeing that all our communication, all our advertisements, all our interviews of the business leaders that are being talked about, or that you see in print or print media or television media, you realize that there is a conscious effort to position ourselves as a premium category perspective also. So you have, it's not that we should be only looked at something which is only operating in the budget category and not going into something else. So that's how Dr. Rajita is, I would have liked to answer that. It becomes, kind of input was provided by corporate affairs, which became a very, very critical input. And then the output side of it was translated into actuality by the media team, as we call them at our end. Yeah.
So I have a question from my side. Like, since you happen to have a lot of years of experience in this field, uh, I believe you've been there when the online world and online market didn't come. So, like Oyo, like if I talk about Oyo has this facility where I can find the hotels based on my, interest and book it. But what about those real estates who are not yet into the online market? I mean, they advertise about themselves, but they're not yet into the online market. You mentioned social media and smartphones. So, like, do you think the real estate who are not yet in the online market have any, a scope in the later 5 years also?
Yeah, they do. And it's a constant endeavor. I mean, actually, if you look at the business model of aggregators, whether it is Ola, Uber, Airbnb, Make My Trip, the more we onboard, the more the business grows over there. So from our side, I mean, our people, just recently, we've hired almost around 100 business development managers across the country, whose primary job is to actually go and onboard these properties who are not so far available on the online thing. It's not an easy job to do, by the way. Because people who are not yet, on the technology platforms often have multiple apprehensions. So that's where, the expertise or the finis of our people comes into play, where they go and kind of explain to them as to how, I mean, by getting onboarded onto a digital platform, I mean, their revenue will go, let's say 1.5 times or 2 times, how they will be able to, reach out to many more customers, which otherwise they would have to totally depend on local travel agents or things like that. So yes, Ria, I mean, it's a constant priority for us, and that we are actually onboarding more and more people, and that's how the business model operates actually. So they have, everybody has a chance, and the best thing that has that in my 2 years or 2.5 years of experience at Oyo that I'm witnessing is that one of the best advertisements is always word of mouth. So when somebody in the city actually gets onboarded onto a Airbnb or a Make My Trip or a Oyo platform, and once they start seeing changes in their revenue or monthly earnings, that word spreads very, very fast. And then other people who may be his own peers in the neighborhood, in the same city, they then start looking out for companies, digital companies like ours, to come and get onboarded. So it's a constant endeavor. And our business teams actually are constantly on lookout to onboard more and more people. Actually, it is one of the KPIs for us when we do our weekly business reviews. How many new rooms have been added is a very, very important KPI for those business teams which are there on the ground. So it is a very important metric that we keep tracking very, very closely. Yeah. And in case, I mean, it's not that a hotel remains with us for ever. There are churns also. There are people who go back also. Then again, it's the team's job to just go and ensure that they are again onboarded onto the platforms. That's how they do it. Yeah.
I guess, sir, this is a good way to encourage employment also for the
It
small.
is. It is.
It's a very great step to take.
It
Okay,
is.
so
And so, Ria, I mean, on that particular thing, I mean, while I was very upbeat, I mean, hotel is something that a lot of people know us, but this homestay was a real revelation to me. So in Kevadia, what happened is that the Honorable Prime Minister actually wanted us to do something. So Kevadia is the place where you have the Statue of Unity, Sardar Patel's statue. So most of the people, what they were doing was that they were going to Baroda and we're taking a day trip to the statue and coming back. So the Prime Minister and the Gujarat government, they felt that that was not really benefiting. And so they wanted what else can be done so that people can then start staying back over there. And as a project based, we picked up 4 or 5 houses in the nearby villages and we transformed them into good swanky homestays. It didn't take much. I mean, there was some support coming in from the government also. And what happened is that once they got onboarded onto our platform, every village home, for every room, their monthly income went up by almost 40 to 50,000 rupees monthly income, which is a huge amount of money for those people, because otherwise agriculture is the only source of income that they have. And that was really there. And once that 4 or 5 success story happened, now people are more than willing to transform their whosoever has a extra room or something are now wanting to come on board to us. So coming back to your this thing, yes, it does create economic value, gives some money, extra money into your pocket. In any case, those rooms were lying extra with the family. They have been able to add food, local cuisines to all that. So the overall experience has become really, really very good for the city dwellers over there. So yes, most of these technology companies, their business model thrives on the volume has to be is really big, and that's how things operate, and you create economic value for anybody who's getting onboarded onto that. So our expertise is the technology part of it. We have almost around 600-700 IITians working for OYO, who constantly keep on updating our technology to ensure that how our patrons, as we call them, hotel patrons, how we can increase their revenue, how we can increase, maximize their revenue and everything. So that's a constant process for us, and that's where probably whole thing works like a team. So while corporate affairs is more to do with external relationship and everything, the internal teams are constantly in touch with people who keep on doing that. Yeah. But the role of corporate affairs otherwise also, Ria, is something, if I were to go back to my previous company, Lenovo, over there, the role was slightly different. Over there, I had to constantly deal with, Lenovo as a Chinese company.
Yeah.
So that imagery has to constantly keep tracking as to, if there was some, something happening in Ladakh or something happening in Arunachal Pradesh, we knew for sure that it was going to impact our business, especially the government business side of it. And then we had our own tools, how we could go and rectify those. Corporate affairs, a lot was to interact with state governments who wanted, every state government wanted more and more manufacturing of electronic items to happen over there. Corporate affairs was a lot to do with, more and more proliferation of devices now into our lives. Electronic waste has become a big time issue for all of us. So how to tackle that? So Environment Ministry was a key stakeholder suddenly for us. So it keeps on changing depending on where you, what kind of a company you are representing, what kind of products you are representing, what are what is the main, what are the business priorities for a particular company. So that's how corporate affairs, as I told you, while I try to simplify it as the external stakeholder management, but when you go deeper into that, it can have many ramifications, many colors. Yeah.
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you so much. I guess there's Arjun Kohli who wants to ask a question.
Yes, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. My name is Arjun Kohli, and I want to ask a question that is a follow-up to the great answer that you just gave all of us. And that is, in your experience, especially in corporates, what do you think is the good advice for people who want to start their own brand and connect with big corporates as an Indian entrepreneur?
So that's it's a bit of a digression. So we are actually seeing, the role of corporate affairs would come handy over there. So while the idea and the scalability is something that any corporate would constantly keep on look at before they evaluate your business proposition. But good thing from a corporate affairs perspective is that today the government is really supporting many such ideas. So you have policies of DPIIT, which is the Department of Investment and Industry, which earlier used to call Ministry of Industry and Commerce. So they have many schemes for young startups. Niti Aayog has many schemes for young startups. Now there are multiple people who are having startups all across. So my suggestion would be that while you may be having some basic idea into your mind as to what you want to do in case you were to become an entrepreneur yourself rather than becoming an employee of another company, but also now there are enough resources and tools available in public domain which will give you a fair understanding as to how you should go about it. Ultimately, it will have to be on the basis of your own business model, what is the, what is the acceptability, how best you can scale it up to a particular level where you will find some other investors then having faith in your company and coming and investing you over there. So one thing leads to the other. But while as student, and today's interaction from my side in corporate affairs is that please also keep track of the external environment. Now there are enough resources available and hand-holding support available from the government, which you can you can really utilize that. So that's something that you should straight away do in parallel to completing your course, while ideas and then taking it to the next level has multiple steps which are involved into that. But thankfully, you have now resources available which you should try and attempt that. And it's a great idea. I mean, everybody today is saying that anybody who has a little bit of wherewithal should definitely try and do something. I mean, Ritesh Agarwal, who is the founder of OYO, I mean, he is still 27, 28. That's about it. So that's the, I mean, you people are young, you people are very energetic. You have, you know the ground realities well, you know the pulse well. So while you have a basic idea, only thing is that you should be theoretically also slightly equip yourself slightly more by taking use of these resources which are available. And that will give you a fair idea how you should go about it. It will also give an idea where the funding is available as seed funding. So that, I mean, your initial, funding options are now being taken care of by financial institutions. Government is providing a lot of support. There are a lot of state governments which are now wanting people to really try out their ideas, and they are also providing. So there will be building blocks which you can always look at, and all the best. I mean, I'm really happy. I'm really happy that somebody while studying is also thinking of going into an entrepreneur mode. So that's really nice.
Sir, my question was directly, specifically towards something within entrepreneurship, and this was something I've recently been studying about, and it's entrepreneurship in performance arts. So not as a brand, as for example, OYO is something that provides service to people so that you can stay at a particular place. You worked in Lenovo before, and over there you provide technical support. But what I mean is performance art. So I'm one of India's youngest professional magicians as well. And I have been in the industry since I was 10 years old. And I'm performing professionally right now, and I'm pursuing my studies side by side.
Perfect.
So I do a lot of corporate shows, and a lot of people in big corporates give me their inputs on how to take magic to the next level in India. So it's not the typical type of magic where you would see people with big boxes and props that we might have seen before. But what I'm trying to inculcate is modern magic, which is basically propless mentalism kind of stuff within my country, because it originated from my country. So I'm trying to bring the art back over here and trying to popularize it, make it familiar with the youth and the people who are not in the youth alike. So corporate shows are something which is great for that, as well as live shows. So I've been doing that for a couple of years, and I'm taking inputs from different people in the corporate world that I can. So your input would be great on that. So
no, absolutely. So how do you go about reaching out to any prospective corporate? What do you do at the moment?
So most of my career over the years has been built on word of mouth.
Okay.
And I've been performing professionally for about 5 years. And I've been practicing for 9 years. And right now I've performed for the top 4 of India in law consultancy.
Oh.
And I've performed in various famous venues like Canvas Laugh Club, celebrity premieres, Ayushman Khurrana, Shashi Tharoor. So जब उनकी कोई book launch होती है, so they invite me to perform over there. So if we do have 2 minutes, can I show you something really quick to give you an idea of what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have another device with you, like a cell phone or something?
Yes.
Can you open it and go to Google?
Yes.
And I want you to search Google Stats, which is short for statistics. So googlestats.com.
Yep.
Yeah. And when you're on there, I want you to scroll to the very bottom of that page. Are you on the website? There would be a website thoda niche called googlestats.com.
So I have, yeah, googlestats.com here. Yeah.
Yeah, and everyone in the meeting can do this simultaneously. And I want you to scroll to the bottom of that website and you will see a couple of categories like actors, cities, stuff like that.
Yeah. So actors here, brands.
So I want you, so alag-alag category.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that you've clicked on countries, don't do anything, but I'm going to tell you something before you do this. When you scroll to the bottom, you will see a list of about 1 to 100 countries. So before you do that, I have a pen and a playing card with me, and I'm going to use this as a notepad and I'm going to write something. It's a small prediction. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I've written a small prediction that I cannot change right now. I want you to think of any number from 1 to 100 and then say it out loud.
99.
Okay. And what I want you to do is scroll to the very bottom of it. Scroll to the very bottom of that website and go at the 99th position. And see what country is at the 99th position.
Yeah. Falklands.
Sorry?
It's Falklands.
Falklands.
Island.
And that is completely random. I could not know that, correct?
No.
So this is
No.
what we're going to do. You're going to think of a number and I'm going to try to guess the country where it's at. But you could say that I've memorized the list, correct?
So that's okay. I mean, even if you
Yeah.
memorize that. Yeah.
So we're gonna take it up a notch, sort of. So go back to the top. Okay. And intuitively do this a little intuitively without looking. Where do you think name any number from 1 to 100 besides 99 because we've already done that, but any other number? Psychologically, whatever number comes first to you.
76.
76. I want you to go to 76. Not now, but I want you to very slowly, all of you, scroll to the 76th position and then see ki kaun si country hai wahan pe.
Yeah.
Which one is it?
Mexico. Good. Good.
But the fun part is that if you scroll to the bottom of the page, you'll see it written over there, stats brought to you by google.com or something like that. Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want you to click on it. It'll take you to a fresh page. Is that done?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want you to look at the camera, and this is sort of a psychological misdirection. So what people like me with psychological skills can do is we can misdirect your thoughts. So if I ask you not to think of a big pink elephant, what do you first think of? A big pink elephant. So to misdirect your thoughts, can you show me the screen on camera like this so I know what is that you're seeing? Okay, great. And I want you to hold it to yourself. So let's say this is your phone, hold it to yourself and type in the name of a person that's very close to you. Okay.
Yeah.
And then hit the search button. And once you've done that, I want you to just look at that name and try to imagine it in your head. Once you can imagine it without looking at the screen, I want you to keep the phone away. And I'm going to try to look at your expressions and guess the name. I haven't written anything yet, but I want you to look in the camera and repeat after me out loud. A7ZO.
A7ZO.
XQ.
XQ.
Okay, the name starts with an A.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just repeat after me. Z3Q.
Z3Q.
Okay, I think I have it. And you know this person personally, or is it an- I'm guessing it's a
I
person.
know. Yeah,
At the count of 3, you're gonna say it out loud in your nicest, curious voice, and I'm gonna turn it over and show it to everyone what is that I've written. Okay? 3, 2, 1.
Aryaman. That's nice. This is absolutely crazy.
So this is how we
Absolutely.
see the young, energetic entrepreneur.
No. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So-
So it's been real pleasure. I mean, when
Thank
we
you.
are reaching the end of this thing, but it's a real pleasure, Arjun, and I think I'll take your coordinates and we'll stay in touch. Let's see if word of mouth, but how
Yeah.
probably where we can do that. We do keep on bumping into such high net worth people who really want to do something of that. So I mean, you also continue to think on those lines as to how you want to take this to the next level, how you can corporatize it, so that I mean it can really many more others can benefit out of that. I mean, some other people who may be also following the similar passion. So then it becomes and we've actually seen that happening. If you look at the entertainment industry, I mean, companies like Wizcraft actually started off very small, and today they are the ones who have run a multi-million-dollar properties called IFA, and they go all across the world, and they do that. So I mean, it's only a matter of time. But I'm really glad that you're there, and we'll. So any other questions for us?
Yeah. Any other question anyone has, please feel free to ask.
But it's been a nice interaction. I mean, so just to sum it up, Dr. Ajitab is there. I mean, where the whole purpose of today's interaction was just to, impregnate this particular idea that, while business models can be very strong, very mathematical, very foolproof, but there is another aspect which everybody, if they want to become good entrepreneurs or become good professionals tomorrow, I mean, it is important for them to keep track of what is happening in their environment around them. Otherwise, decisions, howsoever theoretically sound they may look like, may have certain pitfalls which nobody often sees them to be coming in over there. And we've got multiple examples of corporates who actually failed because of that. I mean, if you were to look at companies like Kodak or Fuji, how watch companies are because of influx of cell phones. I mean, how things have changed. Camera companies have suddenly finding themselves out of business. So one has to really keep a 360-degree view, irrespective of whatever linearity they are choosing. I mean, whether they want to become finance professionals or media professionals or whatever. I mean, they should have the pulse on the ground and having a 360-degree view. That will definitely help them in becoming better professionals in future. So that's all from my side. Yeah.
Yes, Ria, if there is any question we can take, otherwise we can wind up.
Yes, sir. Is there anyone else who wants to ask a question?
No. So of course we saw,
Yeah, so I
some
guess
entrepreneurs, from young generation, and I'm really happy to see Arjun demonstrating something which was liked by, our esteemed guests. And I'm sure he will get more opportunity also to showcase his talent. and look forward to see more talents, more, the skill sets. I'm sure, we have in our participants to utilize such interactions and such networking to, propel their career further. And of course, Mr. Vikas is there always to guide us, to help us in this way. And yes, so Ria, please wind up now.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I would like to thank you on behalf of all our BJMC students. Like, your sessions are really informative and, interactive. I've attended your session last year also, and I was talking about it before, everyone joined. I remember that session also. Like, it wouldn't be possible if you are not here to, interact with us, give us more informations. And also, I would like to thank Chairman sir and Director sir and our HOD sir, obviously, to, conduct such informative sessions for us, for all of us. So yeah, thank you all, and thank you attendees to attend the guest lectures. I and all of us, personally would like to conduct and have such sessions again in the future.